Face off. One by Toronto. Toronto score! Roberts ends the game, and the Leafs have tied the series 1 apiece.
Do we get an indication tonight this is going to be a long, tough series versus what people thought after game one?
Well, I think so. I think both teams obviously know what's at stake, and I can see a long series ahead of us.
Smith, and this is the early edition of SportsCenter for Tuesday, the 14th of May. 6 games between the Sens and Leafs now mean nothing. Only the final game matters. Tonight, it is Game 7 of the Battle of Ontario. The winner goes to Carolina to decide who will play for the Stanley Cup. That should be incentive enough, but Ottawa has more at stake.
They'll have to make do without their steadiest and most physical defenseman, Zdeno Chara, who clearly was missed in Game 6.
Historically, at least over the last 10 years, teams that have a chance to clinch at home in Game 6 and don't do well in Game 7. They're 4-11 over the stretch of time. It begs the question, Pierre, where's the killer instinct for Ottawa?
I think you guys make a bigger deal of experience and stuff like that than it really is. I mean, everybody has their first Game 7 they play in. And
I'll tell you what, if Ottawa does lose this game tonight, the Dragon's still out there. It needs to be slain by the Senators, and people are questioning this team's heart. A great chance for the Senators tonight to really put that to rest.
It is Sportsfeld Storytime. We are wrapping up the story of the 2002 Eastern Conference semifinals, Maple Leafs versus Senators, the Battle of Ontario, the triple overtime game where Gary Roberts goes 5-hole on Patrick Lalime with no Matt Sundin. The Maple Leafs somehow keep little brother at bay for another day. The Ottawa Senators couldn't get past that hump, couldn't get past the Maple Leafs, the big bad monster under the bed when it became playoff time for the Battle of Ontario. In the series, the Sens immediately after the triple overtime loss, they win game 3-2.
Yeah, I think that was sort of that was kind of the funny thing about the Battle of Ontario series, in that as a Leafs fan, especially as a young Leafs fan, we were always very confident, justifiably so, but never comfortable. Like I don't really recall ever being that worried about this series after game 2, but I do remember it being always like that what if of like, oh, we can't lose to the Senators. It added a little bit of stakes to it.
Ottawa in game 3 jumped out to a 3-0 lead. They scored in the second and then 2 more. In the third, Maple Leafs sort of came back. Travis Green scored with 30 seconds left to make it 3-2. And that was sort of, it felt like something had been salvaged with that late little comeback.
Yeah.
But if you're a Senators fan, you can look at this and say, we're one bounce away. Maybe we score in the first minute of game 2, one bounce away from being up 3-0. And we've been the better team, you could say, in all 3 games if you wanted to.
I think you could say the Senators were the better team in all but 5 periods of this series. And those happened to be the last 5 periods of the series.
Whew. That's a good take.
I mean, like they punched the Leafs in the mouth pretty well in a lot of these games, sometimes literally.
Totally. Game 4, also a very tight one. 2-1 game, which we will affectionately call the Alan McCauley game.
Yes.
2 goals from McCauley, a star-making performance. He was the man after this.
Oh, man. He had 15 points in 19 games in these playoffs. Him and Roberts, I remember, were like, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but like they were, I still can't, I know he had like a decent career and went to play in San Jose, but it's wild to me. The amount of love he had from Leafs fans this time, and he only played 1 more year here, which fair enough. And like, it's not that he ever became like the guy anywhere, but you would have thought this was the makings of like a folk legend story.
It's hilarious because, he gets traded the next season. He gets traded within the year, scores 20 the next year for San Jose, and is 3rd in Selke voting. but only scored in double digits twice in his career. 20 in 2003, 2004, and then 12 the next year, and he's out of the league. So, yeah, interesting little study there. Played 9 years, and this playoff run, I think, is his NHL peak. I think he is alternate captain after this. I think he got a half a season of alternate captain before that trade to San Jose for Owen Nolan, must say.
Of course, which, look, that was fun as hell.
It's a good trade.
I'll always back the Owen Nolan trade. I remember that. I will remember that day for a long time.
Well, it's not like, as we said, it's not like Alan McCauley becomes this huge regret. He scores 20 goals once. Anyway, we move forward. The game 5, we get more drama. Finally, we finally get some like real Maple Leafs versus Senators garbage drama.
Another shot that misses the Leaf goal. Ottawa comes so close. A hit on the boards. The Leaf pair is hurt. The Penguins ring on. They score. Ottawa scores a goal, and the Leaf player nailed along the boards from a check from behind is still down. This crowd is pretty antsy. That's Tucker, who's on the boards, on the hit. The play continued, and a goal was scored.
Well, the Leafs are screaming that this was a hit from behind, and Tucker did not get up. And before the Leafs could get the puck back, it was in with 2:01 to go. And they got to call that. That was a hit from behind. They're usually quite strict in calling it. And you can see that Alfredsson ended up with the puck. No doubt about it. He threw the hit. Then he goes to the net, and he's rewarded with the pass right here, and a nice play by Ylonen, and Alfredsson puts it up.
Tucker still down when Alfredsson scored the goal. That gives Ottawa the lead again with only 2 minutes and 1 second remaining in the third period.
Were you surprised it was a player like Alfredsson who made the hit?
No, he's been pretty active in those hits, usually from behind, but been pretty active there.
An infamous game that it took me a long time to not be mad about.
The Sens win this game, but Daniel Alfredsson, man, he was not a liked guy, I would say.
He was so good at like playing it up though. Like you remember the fake stick toss, this hit, obviously. He loved playing the heel in Toronto. He was great.
He was the perfect foil to Sundin. And the fact that they were both Swedish, like really funny. It's the looking back at it, like it's the perfect little guy to have if you were going to also be a captain of an Ontario team, that you would pick another Swedish guy and he would know Mats well enough and would be like his total opposite in every way. Really funny.
Yeah. And like, I think we can all look back now and be like, oh, this was funny and great. And like, I have a huge appreciation for Daniel Alfredsson now as an adult, but like, I hate him into like my early 20s, I feel.
Oh, for sure.
Like this one play like had so much ill will for so long.
He sneaks up. He hits Darcy Tucker from behind, which we've been over in every episode. Ottawa hated Darcy Tucker, and for good reason. But he hits Tucker from behind, knocks him out, and then turns back towards the play, sneaks in the back door, and scores the game-winning goal. It's a meltdown.
This is like, I know we've seen a few like Toronto sports meltdowns, mostly in baseball. Surprised this one didn't turn into something uglier than it did from the crowd, to be honest.
Had the internet been around for this one, that would have been an Armageddon Twitter day. Because for sure it would have been. Because you can even look now. You can look at the video now of Alfredsson hitting Tucker. You can look at that video now, and there are people commenting that Tucker deserved it because he hit Pekka. That's still going on. It's been 18 years. People are still having that argument.
You're right. It's good that Twitter didn't exist in the early 2000 Maple Leafs years.
Totally.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Game 6, Leafs are up against the wall now. It's elimination is they're on the brink, and the Sens. Maybe this is peak confidence. I talked earlier in this series about thinking that coming into Game 2 of this series was probably peak confidence. Maybe it was after Game 5, having them on the ropes, having everyone fired up about the Tucker thing, about Alfredsson. That's probably as good as they would ever feel in the Battle of Ontario in this era.
Yeah, I think so. But I also had I remember having sort of the opposite reaction, and after the Tucker thing happened, being convinced that the Leafs were going to come back and just smoke them in Game 6.
Well, guess what, buddy?
There's that sports karma to it.
Well, they managed to. The Maple Leafs, I wouldn't say they smoked them, but man, Alfredsson scores his 7th of the playoffs. McCabe scores, Roberts scores. So it's 2-2 after 1 in Game 6. Roberts scores again in the second. Todd White scores late in the second. So it's 3-3 going into the third period. Alex Mogilny, no problem. Early third period goal. We're going to Game 7. This one had 4 roughing majors and 4 roughing minors and a game misconduct for boarding from Ricard Persson. A lot of penalties in this game.
Ricard Persson sounds like a fake player. It sounds like a person that that's the default name in Create a Player.
36 minutes in penalties in this game between the two teams.
In a Game 6. That's amazing.
A lot of it in the second period. Things got a little chippy. But we go forward to Game 7, and this was, I think, Ottawa. I mean, how are you feeling going into Game 7? I guess.
So confident. It was the Senators had them in Game 6. They had the lead. Yeah. They were at home. They couldn't close it. It was, and Game 7 back in Toronto, I was, obviously you're never this is over at that point, but I was not concerned.
Well, you had every right to not be concerned.
I will say though, this game does have an underrated Leafs moment. I think it's Mogilny's second goal, where Lalime sort of has to dive across the net and just can't get there in time. I think that's the 2-0 goal. That sort of had that similar feeling to, do you remember 2015 Blue Jays against the Yankees when Russell hit the home run in the regular season?
Of course I remember that.
And it was a 1-0 game, then everyone could just kind of breathe. This had sort of a similar feeling of there it is. Now we're done with this. And then obviously looking ahead, feeling good, feeling confident.
Curtis Joseph is 14 seconds away from his 14th career playoff shutout. Second this season. Make that 7 seconds. That's enough, Robert. Let the crowd take him home. They're going to move on.
Yes, as you said, Mogilny scores 2, his 6th and 7th of the playoffs, and then Bryan McCabe adds his 4th for a good measure, scoring in the second and third. So it was a pretty tight game. All these games, with the aside from Game 1, these are all really tight games. They're mostly 1-goal games, except Game 5, which had an empty net goal in it.
Yeah, I think the whole Leafs. All 3 series the Leafs play this year are insanely tight. That obviously the Islanders went 7 games, the home team winning each game. This one went 7 games, a lot of 1-goal games, triple overtime game. The Hurricane series has 3 games go to overtime. Half the series goes to overtime. It's this is a long, tight, stressful year for the Maple Leafs.
I was 100%. The Senators will never beat the Maple Leafs after this, ever.
Yeah, 100%.
And the Sens make the conference final the very next year. They beat the Islanders, they beat the Flyers, and they lose to the Devils in 7. They're 1 game away from the Stanley Cup after an 113-point season. And still, as a Maple Leafs fan, I'm just I'm not taking this team seriously.
Well, they lost to us the next year.
They do. They lose in 7. in 2003, 2004. And then they continue to be a President's Trophy contending team that nobody cares about, that no one's ever afraid of.
Yeah. It is funny. They're like, the Senators are like 2 bounces away in different years of being like cup winning dynasty franchises.
It's incredible.
It's wild. I feel bad. I truly do.
I don't at all.
That's also fair. You're still in full
bad.
Yeah,
fuck them. Of course, fuck them. It's not like I've had things to enjoy in that time, and that it's any better or worse than
it's a good point.
How shitty it's been for us, for many team that I cheered for. The Sens really don't get much going in that Game 7. They only get 19 shots on Cujo, the Maple Leafs cruise, and they are going to face the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final. I remember, I couldn't believe it. The Maple Leafs were going to make the Stanley Cup was my assumption here.
Absolutely. My biggest memory from the Carolina series is Game 1, 5 minutes in. I was watching on the couch in the living room with my dad, and my dad just very quietly under his breath went, "Oh, they're really fast." And I just remember that moment being like, oh no, maybe this confidence I've had for the last 3 days that the Leafs are going to the final. Perhaps not. Perhaps
Arthur's Urbe and
Arthur's Urbe.
Kevin
Jeff
Weeks.
Noodles.
Yes, your boy Noodles, Bates Battaglia, Ron Francis. Boy, what a series. And I remember watching so many of these games.
An underratedly, legitimately great playoff series.
And you know what, Jake? It's such a good series that we should continue on this road of the 2002 Maple Leafs playoffs. The next Sportsfeld Storytime is going to be about the Maple Leafs against the Carolina Hurricanes. How about that?
How about that? Look, love us just finding a storyline. We're so good at this.
We did it.
We did.
Matt Sundin will come back. I guarantee you. Well, yeah. Is that a spoiler? Is that a spoiler that Sundin will be back?
I feel like, are there spoilers in sports, especially when they're 18 years old? I don't think spoilers exist in sports.
That's a great question. But there's many questions for the Maple Leafs right now. We don't know the status of Sundin. We don't know the status of Darcy Tucker. He's been knocked out by the villain, Daniel Alfredsson. Matt Sundin is still dealing with a fractured wrist. Can Gary Roberts continue to chew the league up and spit it out as he had in the first 2 rounds? A lot on the line here as the Maple Leafs stare down their first Stanley Cup final appearance in a very long time. And I staring down turning 17 and passing my driver's test, which was a very big deal as I failed grade 11 math again. That was also going on. So I had a lot going on at the time. I was busy, a busy guy.
Yeah, I wasn't staring down much. I was 13. I'd already had my bar mitzvah.
We're coming towards summer here because that game 3, or pardon me, the game 2 we just did 3 episodes about is the first week of May.
That's true. I guess we were just waiting for school to be done. Those halcyon days. Been finishing my first. What was it? 13.
Game 7 of Maple Leaf Senators was May 14th, 2002. Game 1 of Carolina Hurricanes, Toronto Maple Leafs, Eastern Conference Finals was May 16th, 2002, which would go on to be the anniversary of me going on my first date with my wife.
Well, there you go. Look at that.
And that's where we'll pick it up the next time we do this. The Maple Leafs doing this big run. We're not going to pick it up in Game 1. I believe we're doing Game 7, if I'm
6
correct on that. Game 6, pardon me.
Game 6.
Game 6.
We're going
Carolina
sad
Hurricanes.
next time. Tragic.
Right. It only makes sense.
Yeah, we're not going to do 2 happy ones in a row.
We don't have access to 2 good memories back to back. It's never happened. There's no reason to expect it to start happening just because we're looking back at 2002. So I digress. That is where we leave things. We are feeling good coming off another win against the Ottawa Senators. And now We look forward to the next episode of Sportsfeld Storytime. That is Toronto Maple Leafs versus Carolina Hurricanes. And you can hear that on Sportsfeld next week.